The well-publicised port delays are said to be giving some retailers the jitters. This as the festive season is on the horizon and there's a need to ensure that goods are readily available on shelves for consumers. The Road Freight Association says that in a supply chain, time is of the absolute essence. And with delays at the country's ports, they're hearing that pressures are indeed beginning to build up in the value chain.
We see that through pressure on those of our members who do forwarding and clearing as part of their supply chain and their offering to clients. We see that in terms of members who do stock management, so our 3 and 4 PL members who actually look after the supply chains for their customers in quite a bit of detail. And we know of the containers standing offshore because obviously customers are saying, well, where's my container? I ordered this and that and it hasn't arrived.
The supply chain delays are expected to have a cost impact on the end consumer because delays by necessity incur costs along the chain. And this can be illustrated.
Let's say, for example, a transporter, a truck who would come to the port to pick up this container on, I'm just using figures again, the 1st of December. And now you tell the transporter, sorry, no, transporter was contracted for that date, loses that revenue. So there's revenue loss. If the transporter can pick up another date, another load on that date, then all good and well. When your container finally arrives and you now need to move it, you might not be able to find a transporter as easily. You might have to pay more. It might stand in the port for a couple more days or in a depot. There will be what they call demurrage costs. So it's really paying for keeping something at a place longer than what you'd originally agreed.
The Cape Chamber of Commerce has been instrumental in launching the Western Cape Logistics Cluster, a body that involves all stakeholders in the region that are impacted by the logistics industry. That's in a bid to accelerate plans to improve port efficiencies in that region where import and export businesses are crucial to that economy. They argue that ultimately the port problems have to be addressed with urgency to ensure economic growth and job retention, suggesting that the best way to do this is for the government to give the private sector long lease concessions to fix the problems and run key services.
The private sector has for years knocked on the doors of Transnet and said, privatize the container terminals. Give us a long-term lease and we will run it and operate it. They will immediately climb in and do it. We argue and say that the finance is not available. They'll make the finance available to solve their own problems. They will create it. And we can set it up in that they don't create monopolies. We can have one operator in Cape Town and we can have a competitor in Durban and another one at Saldanha.
This week, Transnet told the nation that it's working to fix problems at the ports, but that it will cost a significant amount, which it doesn't readily have, and that the process of procurement would take time. If a decision were taken to bring in the private sector for long-term operating concessions, it would be the private sector that invested its own money and took the calculated risk-return decision, not Transnet. But even as Transnet looks to bring private sector players into the mix, there's been little sign of any urgency to get things done. Nompumelelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.